This is David's 1979 Series 1.5. The engine mounts have broken, so he's going to put it on the back of a trailer and tow it to Sydney, over 100 kilometers away. His mate Andrew has joined him to work on the car today. So let's get it up in the air to see what's going on. So the first thing we see is the axle boot touching the crossmember. You can see the bolt is missing from that support and also from the other side as well. There's a fair amount of oil under the car, which indicates that the main seal's probably gone as well, but that's a job for another day. The first thing to do is undo the gear linkage. Then push back the tabs that stop the bolt from spinning. With the engine supported underneath, the 4 bolts can be taken out of the crossmember. The mount is secured in 3 other spots here. I have found that these are secured by nuts or bolts. It just depends who's worked on the car over time, and sometimes they change things around. So now with everything undone, the crossmember comes out. So now that the crossmember's on the bench, we can take a closer look, and you can see that the bolt has been sheared off at one point and the other one wasn't connected at all and gone missing. Seeing this is a 4-speed gearbox, we're going to replace the mount with a similar one over here, unlike the 5-speed over there. So just like the old mount, the rubber has been cut off and it needs to be cut off here as well. So cutting off the excess rubber with a knife and then using a wire brush to clean it up. And given the opportunity, it's a good time to clean up the oil. So now to install some factory high-tense style bolts. So cleaning up the crossmember bolts as well as the crossmember holes as well. Now to reinstall the crossmember, put in the bolts and torque up to specification. Now that the crossmember's in the car, the lower mount can be torqued as well. Then to reattach the mount to the gearbox and again torque it up to specification. Tapping down to secure the bolt from spinning and then reattaching the gear linkage. Unfortunately, I didn't have a boot in stock for the tunnel. David will have to come back to that later. So that's it, the lower mount is done. Time to take a look at the one at the top. The side engine mount located here is sometimes referred to as the snail mount. Loosening the alternator mount will give you access to remove the auxiliary belt. So now to undo the one bolt that holds in the mount. Then to undo the upper mount, or sometimes referred to as the dog bone mount. Using a jack under the sump, I'm going to start tilting the engine. This will assist us in getting clearance to get the mount out. It's so loose that the rubber's coming out just by pushing it by hand. So now to undo the bolts that hold the mount in place. The mount is held on by 3 bolts. Undoing the 2 bottom ones first, and then the top one's quite hard to get out. The socket gets jammed in there as you're undoing it. However, if you put some leverage on it as you're unscrewing it, it will come out. And you can see where it mounts here. Now to pop out the sleeve that was left in there from the original mount. You can see how it's separated from itself here. The one on the right is the one we took out of the car, and the one on the left is the replacement. It's also important to get the rubber in the right orientation on the mount. So now to just press in the new rubber. The timing belt and the bearing were replaced in 2019, and so we may as well replace it now. As the engine mount is out of the way, the timing belt can be replaced without taking off the pulley wheel. And with the tensioner bearing out of the way, you get much better access to attach the mount. And this also gives you more room to torque the mount in place. The old bearing wasn't great, so it was also replaced. As the engine is still tilted, it gives you good access to put the auxiliary belt back in place. Now to reattach the bolt that holds in the mount. And then once again torque it up to factory specifications. Now to reattach the dog bone mount at the top. Then to reinstall and torque up the tensioner bearing. And after checking the timing, it was time to put the cover back on and go for a test drive. So around the block a few times and everything seems to be working really well. For more videos, information and club day events, visit our website at x19.com.au or fiatclub.net.au. While you're visiting the website, click on the link to join our Facebook group or follow our Instagram feeds. And once again, thanks for watching.